Aloha, coming to you guys live from my backyard. I want to talk to you guys today about how to stay sober in any environment. A lot of times in earlier sobriety, your first few months to your first year or two, there's a lot of times when you'll find that life will bring you toxic work environments, friends that still just don't always get it, um, people who mean well and do a lot of advice that don't necessarily mesh with what you're feeling is the right thing. And some of those people can even come from sobriety, from meetings, from the rooms, from things that people will say, or even from sobriety books, even from the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Sometimes something just won't jive right. Um, and there's times when it's just extra hard. And there's times when it feels like there's not anybody around that really knows and understands quite what you're going through and quite what you need. So I want to kind of address some of those things because they're good for basic thoughts when you're early in your process, but they're important even when you're quite a few steps into it. And I find that even as much time, as many days as I've got under my belt, there's times when I still have things come up that make things challenging, that I've had to make some choices that have been difficult. So I had three thoughts on it. The first is forward thinking, and that is it really helps to make an active plan of what am I going to do in order to stay sober over the next 6 to 12 hours to 18 hours, and then over the next 48 to 72 hours. Those time windows, I feel like it's enough of a bite that I can chew, but it's not so much that it becomes daunting and what am I going to do with my life? How am I going to hang in there? It's too much to think about that way. So writing it down really helps as well. Coming up with everybody's got some kind of Google Calendar or Microsoft Calendar, whatever you guys got and use. It's fine. Just put something on there and then set alarms accordingly. I find that when I try to treat myself like an adult, I'm like, no, I got it. I'm going to remember that this is what I've got to do. A child comes out because I mess up and I'll forget things, and I'm not coming across, I'm not performing as a human that I want to be. When I treat myself like a child, you're going to forget this and you're not going to want to go, and you're going to want an alarm that'll also let you hit snooze a couple of times before you finally walk out the door. An adult comes out because I come to the table and I show up, and I show up on time or early, and I'm there in a fairly peaceful state, ready to shake hands, ready to be there for whomever or whatever is requesting, or that I'm wanting to be there for. So just planning a little bit actively ahead of time instead of kind of just letting life happen to me has been really effective towards ensuring a higher quality of sobriety, because I just kind of stay away from the stuff. If I know what I'm doing and watching what I'm doing ahead of time, it's much easier to just go ahead and do it. And the second is to be willing to change friends or to be alone. This one isn't always hard, but a lot of people I've heard say, if you sit in the barber shop for long enough, you're gonna get a haircut. And I find that what is, said, at least in the big book, in the AA big book, is true, is that if you have to, say you get an invitation to someone's birthday party, it's a good friend, it's an old friend, it's taking place at a bar, not even in a restaurant, like at a bar. If I am fit, if I'm in a fit place, if I am not in a bad spot, I'm not in despair, I'm not in fear or depression or self-pity, and I have a purpose for going in there, the friend's birthday party, I want to drop off a gift for my friend, give her a big hug, say, hey, I can't stay long, I can sit down and I can have a soda with you, though. I'd be happy to sit and chat for a while and catch up. And then I gotta go. It makes for a better experience. And it means that I had a valuable night, a good night. I can look back on it, be pleased with, my visit. And I didn't put myself at risk. I was there for my purpose. I executed my purpose. And that's it. That's all. So, being willing to be alone is kind of the harder segment of that, though. I find that it's also easier to do as I'm planning my life ahead of time and not just reacting. When I'm just reacting, I'm moving off of my loneliness generally. I'm moving off of my codependence. I'm moving off of things that they wind up hurting me in the end because they're actually me coming from a selfish place. And I'm not thinking of it as selfish. I'm just trying to fill a hole, fill a need, fill a void. That's when I need to be choosing to be thinking of it as spending time with the God of my understanding or the higher power of my understanding. So that I'm not thinking of it as being alone. I'm not alone. I'm more with myself, and I'm more present in the earth, and I'm more engaged with all the little creatures and birds and things that are all around me right now that I can hear. So trying to view alone time as different from alone time, or I'm actively alone right now and I need to or want to fix that or change that, is easier when you kind of frame it in that sort of a way, instead of looking at it as moving from default feelings, because our default feelings aren't coming from our highest self. It's just reactivity. And it's hard. It's a muscle that you got to grow. It's something that doesn't necessarily come easily and naturally, and sometimes doing it for a while you actually get a little bit of fatigue from doing it, but then making sure that you're refilling your cup when you're feeling that spiritual fatigue is useful. I find that meditation, which really is just taking a deep breath, sitting, and allowing feelings to come, allowing messages to come, allowing myself to feel the feelings that I've been trying to not feel, it's valuable towards refilling that cup too. So, and the final piece on staying sober in difficult environments is to stick with your gut, because only you know best in any moment what you need. The guy who 12-stepped me at my first meeting, he had a lot of really wonderful things to say, and he spent hours with me talking until they were literally shutting the lights off in the building and they kicked us out. Essentially, we had to go because the security alarms were going to go on. Was how much time he spent with me. Never forget him. I still chat with him sometimes. But he said, one of the things he said was, you're on an escalator that's on its way down if you have this condition that I have, that the book calls alcoholism, that controversial as it is, I believe that in modern society we would refer to that condition as addictive personality. It's probably about the best match that I've heard as to what the book means when they say it, because the book talks about all kinds of drugs and alcohol, and it says alcohol was just a symptom. So knowing that, if I'm on an escalator that's on its way down, that means that I kind of have to work a little bit hard just to stay in the same place emotionally, in the same place of health. That means that I'm on a constant trip down unless I'm kind of actually actively working pretty hard. And that if I want to grow, I gotta really hustle, I gotta really engage, I gotta really work hard, or I'm gonna just keep sliding. So, but the other thing that he said that was really critical, that's about this piece, is that you know what's in your gut at any given point. That what I didn't know at times, he was essentially giving me on my first day, on my first hour, he was giving me a concept called conscious contact. And he was telling me that you've got an inner resource within you. You've always had, you've always been aware of, and you've usually listened to. It says, when you got a a bad feeling about somebody, something doesn't quite feel right, bad feeling about a situation, bad feeling about a dark alley, or a good feeling, in fact, there is always something in you that's telling you, this isn't right, or telling you what to do. Following that can be hard. Choosing to constantly, consistently follow that can be really difficult. And there might be times that you are actually going to have to actively go against what sounds like really sound, solid advice. But you have to do, and what he said was, you already know just the 4 little squares in front of you, the one next square that you want to step on. There are 1,000 different paths you could go on, but there is definitely guaranteed one way for sure that is what you need to do in order to stay sober for the next hour, the next 5 hours, the next 24 hours, the next 3 days. You already know what that is in your gut. And what he said was, sounded crazy, but it really resonated at the time. If you need to crawl uphill across broken glass, and you've got to push a marble with your nose at any given moment in order to stay sober, no matter what it looks like, do it. No matter what it feels like, do it. No matter what it looks like to other people, do it. It doesn't matter, because you are the one saving your own life, and no one else will do that for you. So it's gonna involve going against the grain and feeling like you're going against the grain an awful lot. But if you keep listening to that voice, that relationship will grow. That voice will become easier to listen to, louder, with more clarity. There'll be less noise going on. There's a lot of other things you can do to calm down the chaos in your head to help you make a better connection and listen to that voice a little more clearly. Maybe we'll talk about that in a future video. So in the meantime, I hope this was helpful, and I hope you guys have a good evening. Bye.